Eco AI, how artificial intelligence can augment the transition towards a green economy. Moderated by Stephen Meade, the Bullseye guy. With Dr. Jane Thompson, Supernova Data. Yahya Mohamed, Scientya. Dr. Dmitry Mikhailov, Farcana Metaverse. And Bob Ulti, Bob Eco.
That's not me. That's not me on the foot.
You can be me.
Yeah.
Luis, should we wait a little bit? Just go? All right, well, Stephen Meade again, Bullseye guy, LA, Chicago, now Dubai, not Puerto Rico like some of our other friends. David and Taylor and a lot of the people have moved. I appreciate all of you guys sticking around. We're getting towards the end. So all of you that are here, I think you see we lost a few people on the panel as well. The good news is the panelists have more time. The bad news is I have to figure out how to ask more questions. So we'll do our best to get through that. We'll just start with basic introductions and give you guys a little more time than normal. So go ahead.
Yeah, hi, my name's Jane Thompson, and I'm really interested in blockchain and frontier technologies and social impact, which includes climate change and all of the technologies that are going to impact on climate change, including AI and IoT and many of the others. So look forward to this conversation because I think it's a really important one. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Yahya Mohamed, and I'm honored and happy to be here with you in Dubai. What I do as a full-time job, I'm a head of marketing for a company which deals with governance, risk management, and compliance. But today I'm here with you because I'm also an author, and I write very much articles which are about artificial intelligence, blockchain, and those are topics that I'm very interested a lot. And specifically also in this region, and I'm coming from Switzerland, but as you might see from the way I'm dressed, I'm originally from this region, so specifically from Yemen. And today I'm very happy also to contribute, but also to share my insights, how I see specifically this region, which is experiencing a major transition, which means going from oil dependence to a rather data-driven economy.
So I'm going to change the topic a little bit, only on one word. The topic is the word augment. I don't particularly like augment. I don't think it's audacious enough. Let's talk about radical implementation. How do you believe AI is going to radically affect some of the world around implementation or around innovation in the green economy? I don't want augment. I don't want segmentation. I don't want little steps. Talk to me about big radical steps for AI in the green economy.
Well, I think the first thing is that we need to be bold if we're going to take radical steps, which means we need to raise finance, which means we need to educate governments and industry about what the opportunities are, and we need to educate populations about the potential for using AI to combat climate change. And we need all of the technologies that are at our disposal. So if you think about AI, AI is going to be all about prediction and measurement and enabling the work to combat climate change and transparent reporting along with blockchain. So it can underpin the low carbon economies and help us report against that. It can help us predict weather events for poor farmers. It can help us monitor desertification. It can help us monitor deforestation. And I've only got half of my notepad here. So I just want to start with that because I think we need to mobilise massive capital to be able to use this at scale across the world to achieve net zero.
And I know that's one of the big aspects of AI and artificial intelligence is data ingestion around deforestation, or civilization, and really trying to figure out where you can move infrastructure in or out to try and impact green and things like that. From a radical standpoint, what do you see in terms of how AI can implement green?
It starts with education and ends with education. So when we speak about artificial intelligence, we should also understand that there's I would call it a dilemma. We need artificial intelligence to be greener, let's call it like that. But at the same time, we should also not forget that the more we use technologies such as AI, we need also tools that help us to transmitting data. So transmission of data also contains a lot of energy consumption. So when we say we need to do, well, we need to push forward artificial intelligence solution, we should also consider that fact, because we try to do something good, but at the same time, it's also doing something which is not that good. But if you compare the advantages and disadvantages, I'm convinced that the advantages are much more important to consider. I've recently read an article which I found very impressive. The title was 79% of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals can be achieved with artificial intelligence. So 79% is a huge percentage, and we should see what can we do. But as you said, education is key for everybody, and it doesn't matter if you are starting your career, but even for seniors, it's important to educate themselves always. And I think this kind of conference is very helpful also to get those insights.
So let's take a different tact on that. We do some stuff around green. We actually built a product that saves water, plastic, power, pollution, and money in 60 seconds. All right, consumer related, big impact if it's done in scale. What I'd like each of you to do with the time we have, let's start with you, Jane. If you could pick one aspect, right? There's a bunch of SDG goals. There's 17. If you could pick one that you could impact and artificial intelligence could change it, which SDG would you pick, and how would AI help solve that SDG problem?
You don't mind that we're on climate? I'm going to stick to climate because it's the topic, but I'm also going to stick to climate.
Which number is climate on SDG?
I can't remember because there's 27 or 17.
There's 17. I was 17. Trying to remember climate. Okay, so we're going to do
but
climate and AI. How would artificial intelligence make a radical difference?
Yeah, but I want to make a pitch because we're here in the UAE. Next week is MENA Climate Week. The UAE is going to take the leadership of COP28. The UAE is a country that is very pro-technology, and the government's very future-forward about technology. And my big pitch is for the UAE to step up and take some leadership around AI and blockchain and climate change. Within 5 hours of Dubai is huge populations of disadvantaged people who are suffering from climate challenges. So I'm putting down the gauntlet to the UAE to step up and show some real leadership of this and be the ones to help scale it.
We may have to come back to that because I'm still looking at how artificial intelligence would help. I'm going to hold you accountable. We'll come back. One SDG, and how does AI impact that SDG?
I would prefer to take an SDG which is not helpful thanks to AI. Also, let's say AI cannot really help, but has to help. It is when it comes to poverty, for example. So the idea is not just to have a planet which is greener, a planet which is healthy, but at the end, those who live in this planet also have to be healthy and to be happy the way they live. So when we look at AI, I mean, we started with the topic which I'm fascinated about is education linked to technology. So the problem is when someone is poor, that person does not have access easily to education. So if you tell a farmer, for example, well, we developed the best AI solution, with that you could produce your products more efficiently. He will look at you and say, okay, what is AI? Explain me first. So when we see at the SDGs, we say we want to reduce poverty. And now, of course, at this panel, we're saying AI, how can it help us in achieving a green economy? We shouldn't forget that AI is not the solution for everything, but it has to somehow. So we should somehow get to a point where technology really helps us. So it shouldn't be about explaining something which is very complicated to say, hey, this is good for you, but we should try to make things simple as possible. So this is what, I would stick to the SDG, reducing poverty, but also I would like to raise the criticism that AI is not easy to use for reaching this point.
Yeah, I've been asked before, and again, I'm not an expert in AI, and I like to explain things simply. I said, basically, artificial intelligence is a lot of big data and then making better decisions to make an actual impact. So the AI can help us make better decisions, and that's really what's needed. Excuse me, a few minutes to wrap up. Jane, what would you like to see happen in the next 3 to 5 years within the climate space that you're working on?
Well, what I think would be really great, if there's a book called Blockchain, Climate Finance and Green Energy that kind of lays out the way that this could be used at scale. And that's what I'd like to see, is people saying, here's the 20 different uses of AI that are going to enable us to look at that data, to understand how to use it in our EdTech platforms for precision education. We don't need to go to school for this. We can do it on platforms and help people with micro-learning. But everything in blockchain and a lot of technology is not at scale. So the key thing that I'd like to see is someone who just grasps it and does it at scale. Because if you look at climate finance, like it's clunky, it doesn't work, no one ever gets it, people are having floods and famines and all sorts of catastrophes all the time. We need to kind of grasp the metal and make this happen in a big way.
And so to me, AI around agriculture, I think, is easy because there's a lot of data and decision points. How would, excuse me, how would artificial intelligence help or accelerate education?
I mean, I would say generally it would be technology. It wouldn't be only artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is, in my opinion, one of many kind of technologies we have. It is just a buzzword that most people talk about. Even artificial intelligence can be divided into several parts. We have machine learning, we have deep learning. So we should somehow also specify the role of AI. What is it exactly? So if you, for example, as you mentioned, say, how can AI help us enhancing education, for example? So what should AI do? Should we now expect that we have rather bots than professors educating our teachers, our students? Or what exactly is the role of AI? For me, what is the easiest to understand is, as you said, so analyzing data, making the right decisions. This is what is sure, and this is what we can say AI can help us. But how can AI really help in education? It is a topic in itself, I would say. Because for me, it's still not really clear what should AI really do. Most people are afraid of AI. Yesterday I was speaking about the viewpoint of a customer towards AI. So, I mean, we can of course discuss later, but I would also, that we speak about that. What is the role of AI? Do we really need AI?
We actually, and I'll let you finish it, we use it, and I don't even know if it's AI. We did a foundation that scaled, it surveyed all the students to learn different scotomas because they learn visual, dyslexic, and then wrote specific lesson plans where one teacher could teach all of the students at the same pace, but predicated on their scotoma of learning. And so these were all data and analytics and question points. Jane, I'll let you wrap up again. Education, impact, what can we finish with?
What I wanted to say is, the world doesn't have enough doctors. The world doesn't have enough teachers. Significant proportions of the population are still illiterate and have no access to learning. To deal with health and education, we need to harness the technology to complement and extend our capabilities by humans. And we need to see it as an augmentation. It's like saying, are we for or against fire? Of course we're not for or against fire. Once our ancestors discovered fire, they were able to do a whole lot of things. We need to see technology as the pathway to our future and see how to work with it to be able to create a better world for people who don't have access to these things.
Yeah, perfect. And that's the goal. Let's all work together and create a better world. So thank you for everybody sticking around. Thank you to both of you on the panel. We're moving on to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much.